Hey, this is Brian McClelland from Filth Is Eternal, Haunted Horses. You're watching Couch Riffs.
Hello, everyone. I'm your pal Mike Squires, and this is Couch Riffs Podcast, episode number 295. And my guest this episode is Brian McClelland of the Seattle band Filth Is Eternal, who will be releasing a new album, Impossible World, on March 17th. They have released a couple of singles at the time of this recording. I believe Brian told me they have one more and a video coming in the next week or so probably right around the time of this podcast release. Filth Is Eternal is definitely a classic thrash-leaning metal band. If you are into that, I definitely recommend checking them out. I saw them when I first moved back to Seattle by accident, and it was a very happy mistake for me to be there catching the show. I've been sort of like, head nod familiar with Brian for 20 years about. So it was really awesome to sit down, get to know him a bit better, as it always is here in the studio. Again, I'm so stoked to be doing this, so thank you to everyone who listens. Thank you to everyone who clicks the subscribe. I mean, thank you for listening, period. If you've got practically no energy to give, but would still like to help, click the subscribe button. And all that stuff really helps. It helps keep this operation operating, if that's what I'm doing. Special thank you to folks who belong to the Patreon. Thank you so much. And let me remind you, at a time in the world and in America, and Brian said it himself, like, grab your friends and build your community. This is what a time to be alive. Things are crazy. The golden rule is more important than ever. Treat people the way you want to be treated. And don't take any shit. Right.
Perfect.
So we don't really know each other, but we are familiar.
Yeah.
I feel like I'm going to try to remember this right, but my internal timeline is not good.
Oh, yeah.
I got sober 9 years ago, and, as of 9 years ago, pretty solid. But before that, a little iffy. So I think we met in 2006 or 7. Is that when you were at Guitar Center?
I think that was closer to 2008, 9, around that area. I think that's when I first remember meeting you. Yeah, right. Definitely.
Were you fresh, or were you a person that grew up in the Northwest, or were you fresh to town and getting your first job? Because you were young.
Yeah, that was early on in the music days. I had just moved to Seattle from Albuquerque, New Mexico. So I was working at the Guitar Center down there, and I said, I got to get out of the desert. So I transferred up here to the store that was up on Westlake, and that's when I started meeting, friends like yourself. I worked with Anthony Bender over at Thunder Road Guitars, who's like a close friend of ours still, and Parker.
Legend.
Yeah, of course, from Diablo. So that was a great time to like get familiar with the Seattle scene. And I met you, I think, around then. You were bringing all these cool guitars around at the time, and I was like, I gotta keep an eye on
stuff on tour and bring it in. I think famously I got a Japanese Eclipse.
Oh yeah.
The full thickness 4 control.
Yes.
A Les Paul custom, basically.
Oh my gosh. You brought that guitar in, and I had not seen those in person. That was one of those ones that I had only seen like in publication or something. And when I got my hands on it, I was like, I got to sell everything I own and get one of these.
That was a rad guitar, and I really wanted to connect with it, and I just didn't.
Oh yeah. It kind of depends on like what vibe you're looking for with like a Les Paul, right? Like I've had a series of the Gibsons, and I think I went through probably 5 Les Pauls before I found like the right one in that same series.
Right.
But those ESPs, man, I think I have a 2012 Eclipse 2 actual ESP that's my main recording one.
Oh, rad.
Yeah, so that was the inspiration. I found that, I saw that one, and I said I got to get that.
Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Look at that.
Yeah.
We're practically related.
That's right.
Can we talk about Albuquerque?
Yeah.
So clearly you didn't love it enough to stick around.
Well, I was playing in a ton of bands down there, just kind of cutting my teeth, learning about how to do it. And it was super fun. I had a lot of friends, I was part of, several punk houses at the time. I was going to school, and I realized I wanted to take a little bit more time and like kind of focus on playing in bands, making art, doing fun stuff. So I left school and then started just focusing on playing.
When you say you left school, did you quit high school or did you leave college?
I was at UNM. So
Okay.
I was studying there and I was having a good time. And then I was like, it was one of those forks in the road where it's like you either do this and you go straight into like kind of getting a job, or you like spend a little time kind of figuring out life. And so I took the time to try and prioritize, stuff I wanted to do at the time. So just playing music, making art, kind of discovering myself and figuring out what I wanted to do with my path. So I was playing in bands and kind of touring around regionally. A lot of great like punk bands. I was living at punk houses. We had a spot called Superhausen, which was a fun little university area kind of place. We had a spot called La Casa, which was another like basement punk venue right by the U. So I lived there, played there for a while. And then the bands I was in, we started touring regionally, but then we realized it is so far away from everything. It's like 8 hours to Denver, 8 hours to Phoenix,
So you decided to come to Seattle.
I know, which
is further from everything.
In retrospect, yeah,
Right.
But it was a nice, healthy music scene. So I was really excited to come up here. All my favorite bands at the time, this was 2003. All my favorite bands were coming out of the Northwest. So I had to come check it out and see what was going on.
What were those bands?
I mean, at the time I loved, Botch, These Arms Are Snakes. Yeah. Like you just had Derek. I loved Pretty Girls Make Graves.
Yeah.
Minus the Bear, all the good stuff. There was heavy music. There was indie. I played guitar primarily. So it was like all of this cool creativity was coming out of the scene in different ways. And I had a friend that I grew up with in New Mexico that was working at some labels up here. So I came and crashed on his couch and just jumped in. I was working at Guitar Center and going to shows like 4 nights a week, just meeting people and getting into it. So,
right.
Yeah.
How was the transition from Albuquerque to Seattle? Was there anticipation of like, well, I'm going to cross paths with these people that I admire so much?
Yeah. I mean, I was at Guitar Center in Albuquerque just hooking up my friends that came into the store,
Right.
And then when I transferred up here, I thought, I might meet some people. I think I met Dylan Carlson from Earth, was like one of the first guys that I met that just came in and was like talking pedals, talking shop. I met, the guys from Minus the Bear came in. I would chat with them a little bit. In the pedal department, that was kind of my game, was pedals and all the nerd stuff. And then we met Tad came in. Right. And my friend had given me Tad's Busted Circuits and Ringing Eardrums DVD. He said, "This is your crash course. You got to get familiar with the Northwest. Here's your blueprint." And so I watched that a bunch, like religiously. And then when he came in the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, there's the man. So it was cool to just meet people along the way and like, just go to venues. I was going to the Fun House a lot. I lived right down the street from, right on Capitol Hill. So I was at the Comet all the time, right. Chop Suey, Numos, just everything was in walking distance. And that like blew my mind. So going to shows and just meeting, some of these incredible musicians, it was a dream,
Let me ask you this about Guitar Center. I don't want this to be a Guitar Center podcast, but because you are helping people who are potential, like Steve Vai or Zach Wild could walk in, right? Because they need whatever. Probably they wouldn't, but let's just say, is there any part of the onboarding of employees that they tell you like keep your shit together if someone comes in and don't, or are they just like catch and release, kid, go on?
It's funny. I think different people have a different sense of how to work with musicians and entertainers.
Sure.
And, there was definitely a part where I was a little starry eyed about like just meeting people in bands that I really appreciated.
Right.
But I don't think that they gave us any training specifically, but you could tell who could like handle it and who would nerd out a little bit. I remember Kerry King came in and did like an in-store at one point.
This is exactly what I'm talking
Yeah.
about.
And we were like, dude, that's amazing. But you get the people that like have toured maybe, or they've been playing in bands, and they kind of get the more like, this is just a person like doing a thing. The last thing you want to do is be a punisher.
Right.
Oh my gosh, be all up in their space and everything. And I remember we did this event with Kerry King, and he was just super cool. And we hung out for a little bit, and like he signed everything for everyone that was in line, everyone that came to see him. He was super cool. He stayed and talked to the last person. And so, I really respect that. And it's like, we just want to give him a good time and like not take up too much space. And so, but everyone kind of handles it a little differently. You see who can do those events and who can't. So,
right. Out of curiosity, what was your intention at school? Did you have a major in mind?
yeah, I was at UNM, and I was studying psychology and philosophy. So I was just trying to figure out how to be a human mostly. I thought I wanted to do research psychology. It was pretty fascinating. I thought maybe there would be like some criminology in there somewhere, but I ended up I realized that wasn't really the path, but I appreciated all that knowledge, and I just took that straight into like
figuring out the end of a CSI episode
right
before everyone else.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So yeah, but I just wanted to play some music, and I made that choice where I was like, well, I could go down that path and be stuck in a lab all day or whatever, or just be
Right.
filing papers or, doing research. But I wanted to get out and see the world and, travel with friends and throw parties for people and do fun stuff like that. So
Were you playing just locally in Albuquerque, or did you do any touring?
well, I started booking in Roswell initially. So it was like I was playing in Roswell and all these little cities around. So we'd go to Las Cruces or, Portales, Silver City, all these like tiny areas. So I got my start regionally touring there and booking other friends' bands from the area. They'd come to that town. And so when I moved to Albuquerque, I would book bands from all over in our little punk houses, and help kind of set up shows for hardcore bands at some of the clubs in town. We would have bands like Thou from New Orleans, who were like legends. They'd come through and play the basement back in the day. So we just kind of book for whoever was around. We were just trying to help build the scene there, since it was kind of a transitional point. People would play Phoenix and then go to Texas, and Texas takes a whole day to drive across. So we'd give them somewhere cool to stop and, give them some good food and whatever. But yeah, we did as much regional touring as you kind of can there. There's Albuquerque and there's Santa Fe, but none of those had like huge music scenes. So
Right.
we would go to Denver, and that was like 8 hours away, or Phoenix or whatever. So, but at least like I wanted to go to Seattle and have a strong like cultural center to be able to tour out of. And so when I moved here, I learned about touring the West Coast. And so it was go from Seattle down to San Diego and back kind of thing. Then learn how to do the Rockies, where you go down to LA and you cut over, and then you go back up through do the northern shelf. So, but that was all a process to kind of figure those things out.
Right.
Yeah.
When you got here, how long did it take for you to start playing with other folks? What was your first first gig you played in Seattle?
Well, I started trying to, put together my own project like immediately. But I had a friend, Jake, he had like an electronic band with a live drummer, and he needed a guitar player. So I jumped on and I said, yeah, I'll help you do this. And we booked a national tour, and it was a learning experience. It was one of those tours where you figure a lot of things out. And it was rough. We had some pretty hard moments where we were, having some rough gigs here and there, and then we had to change part of this stuff. But they say you never know a good tour until you've had a bad one sometimes, but that tour gave me a lot of learning lessons, and I definitely came out of it going, that wasn't the best, but now I know that I can do everything, and I know sort of like what to look out for.
Were you having technical issues or logistics issues or booking like what were the issues, if you feel comfortable talking
Yeah,
about it?
and it was a great learning experience. I came on as a just a player. I was a hired gun,
Sure.
just playing guitar with my friend Jake, and then we met our friend Patrick Christopher, who ended up playing drums for He Whose Ox Is Gored in the early days. And so Patrick and I, we were just vibing, and we took this tour and we were learning about it. And it was, sometimes we learned how to book the right venue, or what bands to play with, or how long you should drive in a day, or who's going to do the driving, how to figure out the logistics. We got stuck at a certain point, and this was like before GoFundMe or anything. So we had to like figure out how to get 5 people back home across the country with our back line. And that was a crash course in like getting that stuff done and figuring it out. So, but we made it back in one piece. And then after that, I was like, well, if we can do that, we can do about anything,
Well, you don't know till you know, right?
Yeah. You find out what you're made of on the road.
That truer words have never been spoken.
That's right.
And so that was essentially fill in.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What was your first like gigging around town band?
Yeah, the first project was I moved to Seattle, and I was immediately starting to build a lineup for a band I was working on called He Whose Ox Is Gored. So I was at Guitar Center, and I was posting on Craigslist. I was finding friends. People would come into the shop, and I was gathering like all the best musicians I could. I wanted to make something that was like post-metal, post-hardcore kind of thing, a little bit more avant-garde, had some creative textural layers. And so Lise D'Angelo, who was working with me at Guitar Center and joined the project, joined initially on keys. So we had synth, and then I was playing guitar, and then bass and drums. And so we just kind of built the lineup from there. And we played at the old Fun House. Our first gig was what they had was Metal Mondays. So they booked us a Monday night, and we brought all of our friends. We were partying like crazy at the time. So we had at least, a few heads we could bring. And they moved us up, and then we were playing Thursdays, and then Fridays, and then Saturdays, and branching out, playing shows at the Comet, building our roster from there, and kind of booking out new venues and starting to develop. And then we started our regional touring. So yeah, just very ground up, grassroots,
What happened
with that band? Yeah, we did a series of releases. It was very DIY. We put out a couple EPs early on called Op Amps 1 and 2, where we had this format. We'd do 5 songs for an EP. It was like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And we put those out, and then we did some splits. We did a split with our friends in Aona. We started learning how to press vinyl. So we did a we did, I think, first an EP with Cafe Vita Records.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they pressed a 10-inch for us, which was great. Like really nice packaging. They were super supportive. They were doing a record label at the time. And so we went from there, and then we did a full length called The Camel, the Lion, the Child. And that was a double LP. We got that pressed with our friend Paul at Bleeding Light Records. He was down in Arizona, but he's moved up here. He lives in Seattle now. And we did a ton of touring. So we just were living at the Black Lodge venue. We were booking all of our friends. We were booking all of our tours, DIY, independent, trading shows with people. And we just built it up from the ground up, just booking friends and putting out our own records mostly. And then we got a little bit of support along the way. And then a couple labels kind of stepped in to help us out here and there. So, yeah.
And then did the band just sort of peter out? Or you decide you wanted to move on and do something else?
We did a few things. We did a lot with that band. Initially, in the early days, we had a series of people kind of stepping in, helping us on bass or drums. We had that sort of like classic. We had like 10 drummers in that band,
Right.
before we had a solid lineup,
Another routine.
right? Musical chairs, as it were. But yeah, we had a solid lineup for about 6-7 years, and then we wrote a lot of really fun material, like kind of progressive, like post hardcore,
Yeah.
post metal kind of thing. And so we did that. We sold through all of our records. We sold out all of the stuff that we pressed, and we were working on a second record, and then we just started having a little bit of creative differences, and it was one of those things where life phases were starting to change for people. So people were getting jobs, and it was hard to commit to some of the touring schedule that we had at the time. So we would, at the time, go out for about a month, probably 3 times a year, to promote. And it was doing really good. But it wasn't quite like pay the bills kind of thing. So it's, the juggle of doing that, where you got to take time off work to do it.
And have a job that will allow it.
Yeah. And, Seattle was changing a lot at the time too. So it was like trying to find your way in that fast changing environment. So, but we did a lot with that band. That was really fun. That helped us kind of cut our teeth. We learned a lot about the industry, starting very DIY, but then getting some support from a few different labels and publicists along the way.
You've been touring for 23 years, 20 years,
almost 20 years. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's fucking hard.
It is. Yeah.
Every situation can be a little different. Some tours are better than others or cushier than others, but how do you persist?
Well, it's one of the most fun things I think you can do. It's an excuse to go see your friends and just throw a party with people. I like to make stuff. I partially got into bands because to me, it had this arts and crafts element. Like, I screen print all of our merch.
Oh, really?
And I design all the artwork for the records. So it's really fun to say, like, hey, here's this thing that I made for you, and we're going to throw a party and like have some drinks with your friends or do whatever,
Right.
But it's something to do, and the process of being in a band has always just been like what life is about to me. It's like just connecting with people, doing something creative, just trying to put some art somewhere where it doesn't exist already. So, yeah.
How do you work the balance of making sure all of your responsibilities are tended to and serving your own creative needs, and then following through with, there's a lot. In case you're wondering, there's a fucking lot.
There's a lot
that goes in.
There's a lot.
There's songwriting.
Yes.
Then rehearsing.
Mm-hmm.
Then, if that wasn't enough, there's pre-production.
Yeah.
Then there's recording.
Mm-hmm.
There's preparing. And then there's going out and supporting the album.
Mm-hmm.
Which all adds up to a full-time job.
Yeah.
So essentially, 99% of the musicians that we all know have 2 or 3 full-time jobs. Only one of them usually pays the bills.
Yeah.
Sorta.
Yeah. I mean, in the early days when I got started here in town, it was, post the Craigslist ad, find the people, call the people, schedule the practice, pay the practice space rent, right? Coordinate that, find a van, drive everyone around if they don't have a ride, find the gear, maintain the back line, change the strings, set up the guitar, right? And that's just in the practice phase. And then, like you said, someone's writing the song. So I was usually like bringing skeletons, bringing the songs, and then trying to just work with really talented people, let people flesh that out. But then you got to call the studio, find the guy. How are we going to pay for the record? Are we making enough money at shows? If we're not, are we selling any merch? Who's going to make the merch? Who's going to design the merch? So a lot of those phases I would just kind of provide, hey, I don't know if this is any good, but here's maybe some artwork for a t-shirt. Well, I don't know how to do that. So, my partner got me a class how to screen print down at the Vera Project.
Oh, that's rad.
Right. And then so figured that out and then learn how to like build up your resources. Now we can go record, find the right engineer that kind of gets the sound, who's like doing the vibe, who gets it, call that guy, coordinate everything, book the time. Is the mix right? Someone's got to review it, make the decisions. It is a lot, and you get it pressed. And if you don't know how to get it pressed, are you going to make CDs or vinyl? Have you ever, ordered vinyl before? Well, let's figure it out. Right.
Well, there's a whole other mastering and sequencing process.
Oh yeah.
To that. Then for a while, it was just CDs. Before that, bands were making cassettes.
Right.
And, that is maybe a little more akin to sequencing for vinyl, but I think the average music listener has no idea how many steps in the process there are. That's
right. But I mean, I've always just been a fan of the process, so that's what's kept me motivated personally. Going to band practice is just an excuse to hang out with my friends. Right. Going on tour, I get to drive across the country with my homies.
Every step of the process brings you closer to finality of whatever it is you're working on or toward, right?
Yeah.
And ultimately puts you back in the van.
Yeah. Yeah. It just gives you something to do, because otherwise what would we be doing? Just sitting at home doom scrolling or playing video games?
Having a job you don't want?
Right. And those things are all great too. But I've always sort of been one of these guys where I got to do stuff. I got to make things, even when I'm not making records, I'm building guitars or, thinking about something, chasing some kind of idea. I designed a couple pedals for our band, whereas it came from an idea,
cool.
Pursuing a sound or a concept, I've always got to sort of have different buckets to put my mental energy into. And, maybe you work on this for a little bit, you work on this, and then it adds up, I was chasing a sound that I thought would be cool with my guitar and my amp. And then that turned into a pedal prototype. And we used that all over a record. And then
Who built it for you?
I've been lucky to work with Jeff from Lemon Sundrop Electronics in Tacoma.
Awesome.
Yeah, he's been really cool. I met him. I was working at Victory Lounge up in Seattle on East Lake. And my friend Eric had referred me over to him. And so I said, hey, Jeff, I've got this idea for this circuit. I think it will sound rad. I'm trying to get this kind of sound with my guitar. And he said, that's great. And we talked about it. We designed a concept, a layout for a pedal. And he just started sending prototypes. So we went through probably 10 or 15 prototypes of our first pedal. And that landed on one of our albums. That was the main guitar sound. And then eventually it was like, make the artwork, make the packaging, and then sell them at the merch table,
Oh, rad.
So just have something fun that's like a part of the journey,
That's cool.
And you get to work with a super talented guy. Like Jeff is incredible. He can take these ideas and then turn them into reality for you. So it's fun to make those acquaintances.
When you first arrived, I was sort of explaining this space and moving back to Seattle from New York. And early on, in the first few months of returning here, some friends of mine toured up from LA called Spirit in the Room.
Yeah.
And that is how I saw your band for the first time. I was like, well, let's see I think Spirit in the Room played first or second that night. And then I don't know where, but I stuck around. I was like, well, let's see what's going on here.
Who are these guys?
And I was just like, this is rad. And I think that's that kid.
Yeah.
Because I still think, even though I'm sure you're in your late 30s now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I still, in my mind, I'm still like that kid from Guitar Center.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is rad. This is fierce.
Thanks. Yeah.
how did Filth Is Eternal come together?
Yeah, Filth is Eternal formed. We were doing He Whose Ox is Gored, and that was sort of on the tail end. And that was one of those things where that was like a heavy band. It was a prog band. We were writing longer material, more complex. And I had this thing where I just wanted something that ripped. You know what I mean? At the time in Ox, I had a huge pedal board, and it was one of those things where you got all this texture and all this sound, and you can sort of get lost in the sauce a little bit. You just want to plug in and rip.
Right.
So I started kind of rediscovering my love for like punk and thrash, and I started leaning into like D-beat bands that I loved, and I just wanted to make something that was like motor charged.
I hear a lot of classic thrash and crossover
Yeah,
in the riffs and the songs.
yeah. I wanted to take something that was punk, and crusty, and really immediate. Some of the classic influences of that sound for us are like Motorhead, Thin Lizzy, AC/DC, kind of that school.
Sure.
I've been a big fan of Thunder and Lightning from Thin Lizzy for a long time. So that kind of informed a lot of that era of like crusty heaviness of the band, fast, sometimes 200 BPM kind of D beat, just get in there, put a ton of energy in the room, move people around.
That was the first and only time I've seen you, but I've carried that around like that's a cool band. I need to see them again. It's been 2.5 years now.
Yeah.
Have you had the same lineup?
We've changed the lineup a little bit from
20 drummers
for 25 drum. We're going for the high score, but we've kind of we've moved through different lineups with different records. We're on our 4th album now. So, that's one of the realities is like, it's hard to keep the same lineup together. And through no fault of anybody's, it's just, we've been asked a little bit about that. And the reality is that you live in a big city. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of variables. And, as kind of the landscape of the city is changing as far as affordable places to live and create they're moving around a little bit. It's hard to find them sometimes. And so I think that affects who can do what, and so we've been lucky to work with a lot of really talented people through the different lineups. And we always keep an open door and try and work with everyone as much as we can. But, we're just trying to keep moving. So we've had, we've got a lineup on this record, and we're just excited to keep ripping. We've got Logan from Denial of Life in Tacoma, killer band. He's playing bass with us. We've got Josh Pearson on drums right now. And then Lise D'Angelo doing front, and Mike Sparks, who played in He Whose Ox is Gored with us. Mike's playing second guitar right now.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Are you still living in Seattle, in Seattle proper?
Oh, yeah. We're right in the middle of Capitol Hill right now.
You're still on Capitol Hill?
Oh, yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Where do you guys rehearse?
We're still at the Black Lodge.
All right.
The Black Lodge space is still going. It's incredible. We moved into Black Lodge probably 2010 or 11 and did 10 years living there and practicing there and booking there. And we've retained one of the practice units there, and it's really helped us kind of keep, the whole project moving forward.
Right.
We shot, I want to say 3, maybe 4 music videos for this cycle at the space. So we've been able to kind of build out the other parts of the process too, making videos and shooting photos, and we used to screen print all the merch there as well. So it's been a great anchor for us.
So I am like one generation prior to you arriving here and getting started, right? So when I moved here, it just wasn't that hard to find a place to rehearse.
Right.
It just wasn't. There were more rehearsal studios, but furthermore, a band could rent a house in fucking Green Lake or Wallingford, all with members having minimum wage jobs, as a barista, or I worked in the Pike Place Market. I made $40 a day
Right.
when I moved here. And it feels like that element, that thing that enables creatives of all different sorts to exist and thrive and sort of find their way, is shrinking. And you came here at a time that was even more transitioning. And I guess, how have you seen it? How have you seen it change? And how have you seen, we know how you've coped with it. You just explained, but it just seems fucking impossible for a scene to exist and thrive. And how does it happen?
I mean, that's a great question. I think about when I was back in New Mexico, there were pockets where it was like the same thing. It's like you find the cheap spaces where they'll let you rent it out for a show or for a practice space. Up here we had the lodge warehouse. There's still great practice spaces all around. Like we live down the street from Crybaby,
Mm-hmm.
which is awesome, still kicking 25 years in. But yeah, it can be tighter. Margins are tighter. It's tougher to find some of those spaces and be able to work jobs like you said and kind of facilitate the overhead. Because also if you want to own a tour van, or whatever it is, that's a whole other thing you got to factor in. But I think we see different trends. Like one thing that Jeff from Lemon Sundrop Electronics and I talked about was, there's like cycles in the way that people buy gear. What's popular is what's available and cheap and affordable. And then someone finds something that sounds awesome and then they use that. It's the same thing where it's like, if you don't have a place to play, but you find like a room that's $100 a month or something, you can find these little squirrely spaces. As long as there's a will, there's kind of a way. It is a little fewer and farther between sometimes, but the artistic spirit is still, I think, very strong.
One thing that I'm really happy to know is that there is a metal scene here. And I feel like in the 90s, there wasn't. And if, I've told this story a fucking million times, but when I moved here, I had a shaved head and a Jackson. I wanted to be in Helmet,
Hell yeah.
right? And so I had a Jackson with a Floyd Rose and a shitty crate amp. And I showed up for, I called someone out of the Rocket, and I showed up on their porch and they opened the door and they looked like Perry Farrell, basically, like dreads and things woven into them and, you know, dyed, whatever. They were bedazzled. They had rings and things, like I'm not that. I'm me. And I was like, oh my God, I'm basically in Jane's Addiction. And the guy just looked at me and goes, no, and closed the door in my face, which is incredible. It's just super bold and pretty very Seattle. That element remains. There were no metal bands. It was so not in musical fashion to even enjoy metal. And I was like, fuck you. Master of Puppets and Ride the Lightning are absolute masterpieces. And I just have met a bunch of metal people in town recently. So where do you feel like you fit in that? And who are the metal bands that you think are really doing it?
Yeah. I mean, that's a great question. I think that I've always sort of associated Seattle with a heavy type of music, but a little bit more like angular. Like Botch was one of the big bands that drew me in here. I was into the progressive stuff where it's a little bit more like Odd Time or angular kind of sound. But I always associated Seattle with something really gnarly, Um, I think of one of my favorite Seattle metal bands, of course, is Black Breath. That they pioneered like that really incredible like chainsaw sound up here. But we've also got really, really great like grindcore and thrash bands. Like I love a band called Impulse Noise. This is my favorite like grind band. You know, they're incredible. Just buzz saw guitars, just incredible technical drums, levels of aggression that you can't match anywhere else. You know, I think that the format is just a little different. I associate Seattle with a little bit more punk vibe than traditional metal, but I think there's incredible heavy music all over the city. Our friends in the band Paralysis Expletive are making really heavy metal right now. Uh, so there's a lot of great pockets all over the city as far as, you know, traditional metal, but then really interesting new like subgenres of heavy sound too.
And how do you think I've gone and listened back through your catalog, and then the things that you've released ahead of your album release, um, it sounds like you guys are embracing some more melodic elements. And so how has that evolution sort of happened for you?
Yeah, I mean, we started Filth Is Eternal. It was very D beat, motor charged, kind of thrashy.
Yeah.
Lot of like fast, aggressive riffing kind of stuff. Um, I love that. I can do that all day. You know what I mean?
Well, you do it well.
Thank you. We're always working on it, you know. But over time too, I wanted to explore just different sounds and just, you know, add in some just rock and roll, you know, and just write songs, kind of focus on hooks a little bit more and melody and just develop that. I think it's easy with some of that really thrashy stuff to get lost behind production and like a wall of distortion. But you have all of these incredible musicians, you know, writing really killer riffs and leads and harmonies and things. And there's a lot of like great just music in there. And I think with us, we wanted to start to feature some of those catchier elements with some of the technicality as well. But also just writing good songs, good hooks, good leads, you know. So I see our new record, Impossible World, as some of my favorite material that we've done. There's still some of that really fast stuff in there, but it's a little bit more like you know, bangers, you know, some mid-tempo stuff, but just things that we wanted to be really proud of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh, Talk to me about the process of writing and recording, and when does the album come out?
Yeah, we wrote Impossible World over the last couple years, and we tracked it last year in LA with Taylor Young at his studio called The Pit, which was incredible. I knew immediately after our last record that I wanted to work with Taylor. He had played in Nails, he plays in Twitching Tongues, so those are some of the most aggressive sounding bands, you know. And I knew that he would get the sound that we were going for, where it was, even if we wanted to do something a little catchier, we wanted to retain some of that scuzz, you know, that just that guitar mid range and just grody tone a little bit. We like to experiment with sounds like just kind of nasty sounds in a catchier format sometimes. And so I hit up Taylor and he got it like instantly. So we sent him demos and went down and crashed in LA for probably 3 weeks and tracked the record with him. So once we got instrumentals done, we came back and our singer worked out of XX Audio up in Fremont, where we've done the majority of our records. We did a lot of our production in the last 15 years out of XX Audio with Robert Cheek. So he engineered the vocals on this record, and then we got it mixed, and we went back and forth a little bit on the mix, and just super stoked how it came out. We sent it to master with Nick Townsend of Townsend Mastering in LA, who's incredible. He like does all the really killer like heavy bands and just like a great year overall. He got the right level for it, retained the right amount of, we like that final step of saturation, you know?
Sure.
So it's like that perfect balance. I was really excited with how it came together on all the production for this one.
The things that I've heard sound great, and it sounds like, you know, you always want to feel like you are ascending a ladder well in some way, right?
Yeah.
And it feels like that very much.
Yeah. I mean, we honestly didn't know how to kind of top the production from the last one. We went down and recorded at Studio 606, Dave Grohl's studio.
Oh, you did? I've
Yeah.
been in there a few times.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. We got to record on the Sound City board that
Yeah.
they did, Nevermind on, and Rumors, all of these amazing records. And we thought, what are we going to do?
That place is legendary spot.
Yeah.
Nothing around.
Yeah.
Although they have that whole secondary like video suite area now, which is insane.
Yeah, I haven't been back since we recorded that, but just being in that warehouse and seeing all of the gear that they have and the room. I mean, I think when we were doing that record, they brought out Filthy Phil's Flying V from Motorhead, and we were like, oh, that's a piece of history, like it was so cool to see stuff like that. And, we were really pleased with how that album Find Out came together. We said, I don't know how we're going to top it, but Taylor was able to take kind of that sound and push the saturation and kind of get a little bit more of that live feel. And it felt like a nice progression.
Yeah.
So we were really excited with how this all came together.
Oh, that's rad.
Yeah.
What a awesome opportunity and cool spot.
Yeah.
What do you have planned to support the record? You have tour?
Yeah, we're doing a West Coast tour in April with some of our friends in Negative Blast from San Diego. Killer punk band. We're also doing some of those dates on that run with a band called Gottlieb that just signed to Quiet Panic, who had done a couple of our records in the past. So we're putting that tour together. We're doing West Coast, and then we're planning out probably an East Coast, I think, at the end of summer. And we're looking at getting to the EU in the fall. So
great.
Heading to Europe.
I will be, I think, over on the East Coast at the end of summer. So maybe we'll cross paths.
Gonna have to.
That would be great.
I got you on the list.
I support the arts.
Love it.
I'm happy to pay wherever I go. Have you guys been to Europe yet?
We did. We toured the UK. We did probably, I think we did like 3 weeks in the UK, all around the island, supporting Finch in 2023. Okay. So we did that. We're looking forward to going and doing UK and Europe on this one.
I like touring in the UK. I end up there 2 or 3 times a year. As it turns out, half of the band that I play with and all of the crew are English. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's amazing, dude. I was living off kebabs, like just between every venue was like right next to a killer like Indian spot or something. Like
you can definitely fill up on curries and kebabs there.
Yeah, it was a treat for sure.
I never come back skinnier on tour.
Right?
Not anymore.
I mean, I used to drink, but I quit years ago, and now it's the food. You got to get all the really good regional cuisine, right?
Do you have let me ask you this. Do you have a routine on tour?
That's a great question. I used to be the guy that was driving every day and then, set up the merch, be the point guy for the venue. But we've scaled to that point where it's like we usually have a little bit of road crew. Still very DIY, but some of us work from the road. So we're at the point where we're usually like in a hotel at this point. We'll get up and kind of handle some work calls or whatever. I always love, one of my favorite tour rituals is terrible hotel coffee. You know what I mean? I love it because it means I'm on the road. So
are you terrible black coffee, or are you
black coffee?
You're not hitting it with some hazelnut or vanilla?
Absolutely not.
No, good for you.
But yeah, just kind of get up, get in the van, check the itinerary, hit up the venue, do the advance, I'm always like the guy where I'm in the background, like checking to see if we need to re-up the merch. We got all the records we need. So kind of doing that, coordinating with any press or PR that we have on the road. Sometimes I'll swap out and drive. But these days it's pretty chill. We usually have a driver. So hit the road, get to the next city.
If you have a day off, what would you find yourself doing on a typical tour day?
Aside from like laundry and stuff, we always we got to have like a laundry day, cram that in. But yeah, I like we talk about like going to theme parks a lot, or go to just like record stores around the city, try and find some really good, regional food. If we're in California, we got to get a good SoCal burrito, gotta fuel up.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I once did a tour of Six Flags amusement parks, and it was the greatest thing
Right?
ever. I know it sounds ridiculous, but as soon as we were done with sound check, we got like a park escort that would cruise us around on a little cart on these like little hidden back roads, service roads
Yeah, the
between the rides.
VIP.
And we got walked. So like now I'm spoiled and I'll wait an extra 30 minutes in any line so that I can be in the front car of a roller coaster because I'm a roller coaster fiend.
Right? What's your favorite one?
My favorite roller coaster?
Yeah.
Oh, whatever one I'm on.
There you go.
And I am like I'm a cackler. Like I cackle.
The nervous laughter of it, right?
I can't even believe the sounds that are coming out of me. It's insane. You mentioned doing laundry, which
Oh, right.
So are you a sink laundry person?
I mean, whatever I can. It's like it is a little bit of a struggle, to like stay human on tour because you got to do all those other things and making sure like you got everything together. But I mean, wherever we can.
There's nothing greater than a venue with laundry facilities.
Yes. If they have washer dryer in the green room, it's like my favorite place.
And sometimes it's not in the green room, but if you ask, they'll be like, yeah, you can use it. And sometimes it's nasty. Sometimes it's like this is where they just use it to wash the bar towels, and you're like, I have to. Like I've got a bag full of nasty
Oh yeah.
stuff.
Everything smells like gym laundry at that point. You
so
got to get
awful.
it done.
It's so awful.
There was a spot that we went to in the UK that was like a coffee shop / laundromat. And you could get like some food, some breakfast, and it was like the most incredible thing. We just went in and like throw in a load of laundry and then get like, coffee, get breakfast. Oh, that was my favorite. I was like, we need those here in the States. Like, I don't know why we don't have that yet. Want to get one of the billionaires on that.
Do you have a favorite tour stop in the States outside of Seattle? Do you have a place where you go that feels like second home?
Yeah, we have a lot of friends in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
We've been going to San Diego for a long time. Our management is down there. Of course, LA, we have a lot of friends at this point. Like I said, I'm from Albuquerque, so I always got to go and hit the frontier whenever I'm in Albuquerque, get some good food. We have a lot of great friends in Denver. We love Denver. Is always a super supportive scene.
Do you ever play the Lion's Lair?
I haven't been to the Lion's Lair.
Oh.
But High Dive in Denver is like our go-to spot. We got a lot of good friends out there. I love Minneapolis is another great place. Chicago, play at Reggie's or Empty Bottle is like great venues there. Yeah.
Where are you playing down in San Diego?
Tower Bar.
Tower Bar. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a tiny little spot, dude, but it's incredible. It's packed immediately.
Great.
Yeah. It's one of those places where it's maybe like the size of this room, but that makes it
giant.
Huge. But it is just packed immediately, and it's like right in the part of town where you can just get to. It's always a blast. So
lastly, I want to talk about, I've often stayed away from politics in this podcast, or at least since COVID. Because I'm sensitive about being a part of the solution and not a part of the problem. And frankly, I don't know, if I knew how to solve it, it'd be solved by now. But there's a lot of tension in this country. and in the world. Um, when you travel around, do you are you experiencing what is your experience like in that sense?
Well, I play punk because it's inherently anti-establishment. You know what I mean? Those are my politics. Ice out, down with the fascist regime, you know? And this is the time to build community. And so grab your friends and build your community now. Uh, but that's what's a luxury about doing this is traveling to these different regional scenes and being able to connect with people who are on the ground. You know, a lot of DIY punks, DIY community, they're out supporting, our unhoused neighbors. They're participating in political movements. I work with the Vera Project and teach people how to screen print, make art. We make protest signs so people can go out and use their voice and support different communities that need it. And so that's what this is about to me. It's about standing up for you know marginalized communities and pushing back against oppressive power. I think that stuff is really important, and that's why I like being in these communities and playing independent venues, outside of like corporate ticket giants, things like that. So I think it's really important that we do build that community now and be prepared for the next couple years.
Have you had any threatening experiences on the road, or have you been lucky enough to travel through and stop at a Love's and not have problems?
I mean, we've been pretty fortunate in that regard. Like, we're pretty down to earth. It's like we're not trying to have any trouble with anyone. It's like if someone comes to a show and is acting out, it's like, security will take care of it. But
Right.
luckily, like the world that we function in, we don't have a lot of that. It's a lot of people that agree, that are anti-oppression, anti-fascist, so it's the community does a really good job about protecting itself. And as far as like our individual stuff on the road, it's been pretty chill. We're pretty straightforward about that. I worked security for years, so it's like we're not trying to get into more conflict than is necessary. You know what I
Of
mean?
course.
Yeah. I respect people's beliefs, but it's like we're not going to tolerate like abuse at any of the shows. We're not going to facilitate bad faith conversations.
Hatred isn't a belief, it's a behavior.
Exactly. And so there's no tolerance for that, where we come from and what we do.
Right.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
As previously stated, I grew up in a small town and there were a lot of rednecks there. Um, I guess I still consider myself kind of a hick, but absolutely not a redneck. Like I know how to run a chainsaw and shoot a gun, and I was a volunteer firefighter, but I'm at least, borderline outlier in those spaces. And I'm also a gray haired 50 something white guy. So I'm I can pass through any town and blend in with a redneck and sneak out easily.
Right.
Not everyone has that luxury.
Yeah. Yeah, we get stuff sometimes, being a tattooed punk, sometimes people will try and come tell you something or whatever, but
Talk to you about Leviticus something or other.
yeah, I'm pretty quick to shut those conversations down. That was a big part of my escape from the South, was getting out of some of that, but what people forget is that, all of the divisiveness of politics, it's meant to distract us from the fact that, there's 99% versus 1% all the time.
And, as it turns out, the worst percent is that 1%. Wow.
Yeah.
What a time to be alive.
Yeah. We gotta band together. It's like, you got to reach across the aisle and realize that we have so much in common as people that we shouldn't be punching down in communities. We need to be building each other up, because there's people above us that are trying to control the platforms and pit people against each other. And it's really important to support our neighbors and try and build a better future today.
Eat people in power.
That's right.
I don't support cannibalism, but let's go. Where do you see yourself in 5 years and 10 years? Do you see the band being around in 10 years?
I mean, I like to, yeah, I hope so. I like to just play and like keep working on projects, you know. Um, we're writing new material all the time. You know, I'm always like working on the next design. You know, I'm teaching with Vera Project right now, trying to help build the community in
Oh,
that
cool.
way and trying to expand that. You know, we have a new pedal we're going to release for the band, so it's like we're continuing building out like new endeavors and just trying to stay active, you know, trying to keep our ear to the ground and find new bands and keep in the scene, you know.
Let me do a video here with the pedal.
You want to?
I would love to.
Oh yeah, I actually brought
That would be great.
prototype of the new one to show off.
Oh, do you want to show it off right now?
Oh sure. It's just a prototype, but I'll grab it.
All right.
Yeah, these are the builds we had done thus far. Our first one was the Filth Eternal Echo Drive, made by Void Assault Industries, yours truly, and Jeff over at Lemon Sundrop Electronics. This was an Echo and overdrive based on the original Radio Shack realistic stereo electronic reverb.
Okay.
So we built that. That ended up being the main overdrive sound on our album Love Is Alive, Filth Is Eternal. And we were using the original units, but they're all plastic. So we literally broke a few of them in the recording process just because they're all 40 years old. So
it looks like you can switch the order of the effect. You can go echo into drive, drive into echo.
Yeah, that was a thing that you couldn't do on the original unit, but Jeff is a wizard and he was able to get that in there for some signal routing, which
That's
is really
cool function.
Yeah. And that's cool because we talk about that one. That's my main overdrive on my board and one of my main echo effects, of course. So if you like shoegaze, you can send that echo in, and you can crank that echo all the way up, and it gets almost to the point of self oscillation without getting out of control.
Right.
But it's a 100 millisecond echo, so it's just a real short slap back, but it gives you this blooming texture that is great for shoegaze.
Oh, that's
really fun. Yeah. And then the overdrive is just a nice, like analog, like old school kind of breakup.
Okay.
Really interesting. Yeah. Super fun.
I'm trying to take into consideration it's been 2+ years. Were you playing a Mesa amp?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I work with the Mesa people. I have the Mark V is one of my main amps.
Okay.
But I also use the DC 10 100 watt a lot. That thing is like Motorhead in a box.
Rad.
Yeah, it's killer. It's really fun.
If you know anyone, I have a Mark IV 112 combo that I need to get out from under. Trying to sell a Mark IV.
I got you. I got eyes on the market.
Yeah. So this is the new pedal.
Oh yeah, this is a prototype of the Filth EQ Plus.
How am I supposed to know it's a prototype?
That's prototype. But yeah, this was one of the test press versions. This was another unit that was originally made by Radio Shack Realistic. And so we adapted this a little bit. One thing that was cool about it was a 5-band EQ with an overall gain. So you have the overall gain where you can push it, but each one of these bands, if you start at noon, it's a passive EQ cut. So you can just use it as a standard EQ.
Yeah.
And it gives it a little bit of analog color, or you can overdrive it per band. So, and it has a specific set of bands. It goes down to 60 hertz.
Okay.
60 hertz. And then 240 hertz, which is that perfect, like muddy frequency. I always scoop that a bit. And then 1000, which is like your chainsaw, like your HM2 frequency.
Sure.
And then 3.5 and 10K.
If you could only have one pedal on your board, what would it be?
Overall, everything?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a great question. You know,
Besides, like, let's just go and let's assume that you've got a tuner and that doesn't count.
Yeah. I mean, I use that Echo Drive a lot because it is the overdrive and some of that textural spatial effect. That might be it. But this one is my main sound on our new record, Impossible World.
If I could only have one pedal on my board, it would be an EQ. because it absolutely will change everything. You can use it as a boost. You can use it as a cut.
Right.
You know, you can have a single channel amp that is blasting and turn your input down and turn it into a clean channel.
Yeah.
You can scoop it. You can push the upper mids. It's as far as I'm concerned, the best.
And that's why we did that one specifically, because we were looking at different types of overdrives for the new album. And I realized, man, the EQ is sort of the best option because there's a way you can make that into a chainsaw. So if you like that buzzsaw, like Boss HM2 kind of sound, you just crank that 1K all the way up and just push the input all the way.
That's
But
right.
for instance, I gotta keep those low mids really tight,
Sure.
so you can do that. You can get sort of like a blown out like tape machine style overdrive if you like the vintage sound by just boosting all bands. So it's really versatile and really functional to help kind of get like a specific sculpted type of drive.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Good for you. When do you expect to have the final prototype and production ready to roll for tour?
Yeah, we'll definitely have those for tour, and I'm finalizing the artwork and production with Jeff now.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I know 30 minutes ago I said lastly,
Right.
but when does the record come out?
The new album, Impossible World, will be out March 17th on Monarch Heavy.
Monarch Heavy.
Yeah.
And this is your fourth record.
Yes.
Do you have a video? Have you done a video yet?
Yeah, we've done 2 videos so far, and
Already?
we'll be releasing a third video coming up. What, next week? Sometime very soon.
Okay.
But yeah, we've done a video for Stay Melted, which was done by Sebastian Deramont from Vera Project, who's awesome. He did a really killer MTV style video, like 90s kind of VHS breakup.
Nice.
And then Che Hiscatone from TV Star did our second video for a song called Long Way. So that's another like old school analog style aesthetic. And then we have a video coming out for a song called Hellfire. That'll be coming up in the next couple weeks.
Rad.
Yeah.
Tell me the date again. March
17th.
17th.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
This has been great.
Thank you for having me. This is a wonderful time.
You would have remained the guy that I knew from Guitar Center and later on Uncle Rocky's or Uncle whatever the fuck it was called. The pizza place. You worked at the pizza place,
Big
right?
Mario's?
That place.
Uncle Rocky's.
Uncle Rocky's was a club for a while. And so up on Capitol Hill, the divey, great place. And I just couldn't I remember something like that.
Oh yeah.
Big Mario's
back in the day. Yeah.
Right. And I love to do this because I get to know people a little bit better.
Yeah, it's been wonderful. I mean, we've known each other like, through the grapevine.
Head nods.
Right, yeah. But it's cool to come in and see the studio. Thanks for having me, man. You got a wonderful podcast, so love to be here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I hope that you guys get everything that you are striving toward, and I wish you the best of everything.
Well, and you'll have to come hang out with us on the East Coast, right?
Well, if there's an opportunity, you fucking bet.
Always got a guest list spot for you.
And likewise.
Sounds good.
All right. That was great.
Fantastic.